And good evening, welcome to the Opinion Box. My name is Levi Kones. Tonight we are discussing the issues to do with the politics of the finance bill. To join me in that discussion is a gentleman who's not new on my stage here. His name is Amunga Hanyalabandu. He's a governance and policy expert and a guru on matters to do, especially with teachers.
Education.
Education, teaching. And I want to almost start there.
Yes.
You know, we want to discuss this finance bill that has been,
Yes,
you know,
of course.
And of course, it's on this desk, by the way, we have not been able to run away from discussing the finance bill week after week after week after week. Which I think is a good thing because for once, we are focused on issues as a country and not on sideshows.
Yes.
It's an excellent
That is true.
thing.
That's a point. That's a positive,
That we are actually looking at something and dissecting it and saying, you know, this amount of money, this is too much, this is too little.
That is one thing that the Kenya Kwanza government, we promised you and we have achieved.
Yeah.
We told you we want to shift the thinking of Kenyans and the debate and the conversation. And we said we want to remove conversation from just talk about people and positions to talking about uchumi, economy of our country. That's where we are.
So this whole conversation is already a big plus.
That's a plus for the Kenya Kwanza government.
That we're having.
Yes.
Now, let me start away from the finance bill. There's talk about capitation in schools.
Yes, yes.
And it's been a very worrying issue because, you know, those that are schooling in government, you know, schools that have government funding are really having a hard time. Principals are having to balance a lot, and you know the money is not coming enough. Maybe you can give us a picture. Actually, what's really happening, Uko?
Yeah, what's happening in the schools? The schools have gotten the biggest blow from this economy that is doing not very well. Our schools in this country depend on something called capitation. Capitation is what Mwai Kibaki began with something called free primary education. Then Uhuru Kenyatta came up also with something he developed and added. It became free day secondary school. So this capitation allows children to go to school, and most of their tuition, especially basic education, primary and secondary, is paid by government. I'm talking about things like their tuition, their labs, the teachers. Government pays the teachers. Now, that is one big thing that came with the multi-party democracy. That we were told by those who were campaigning that time that we shall give Kenyans free education. And when Mwai Kibaki began this thing, it was a very nice thing. That's why you saw people like old people registering in schools and going back to schools. We heard of somebody called Murage, an old man, 90 years old. He went back to school. Now, my issue here is this. It has been going on well because it depends mainly from funding from government and a bit from well-wishers like the World Bank and the IMF. And sometimes also from the British government. Some governments also chip in. Now, the problem we are having as a country is that the economy not doing so well, money is spread thin to other sectors. The way you hear that county governments are not getting their money, that's the same way schools are not getting their money. The difference with schools is that they can't complain loudly. You can't have a principal come to sit where I'm seated here today and talk the way I'm talking. Because the government, by the close of last year, government owed schools for last year's capitation 25%. So we closed a year with a carry forward. Money that was not paid, and nobody has talked about it up to now. Heads of schools are quiet about it because when you try to speak, you can easily lose your job. You can be transferred to a place where you can't imagine where you can be taken. So what's happening is this. This year began, government promised heads of schools, we shall give you 50% of the money. We're talking about almost 240 billion for primary, for secondary, and for junior secondary. 240 billion. So they said, we shall give you 50% of that money to schools by first term. Then we'll give 30% in second term and 20% in third term. So by third term, we have given you the total 240 billion to run education sector in primary, secondary, and junior.
And how has that gone?
Now, what has happened is that by end of first term, we are in second term, parents who are listening to us and our viewers. By end of first term, government had only given 25%. So teachers went home hoping they'll be given the other 25% to reach the 50%. So if we are talking about 25% of 240 billion, that's a small amount of the 240 billion. Then they have waited up to this is now second term. After many promises, they have been given 24 billion, which we have calculated to be 20% of the total amount. 24 billion is 20% of 240 billion. So 24 billion is the money that has gone to schools, and that means government has not cleared first term.
It's actually 10%.
Yes, it's like 10%. So we are saying,
times 10 is
yes,
240.
it's 240. So we are saying as of now, government has only released around 30% of what they're supposed to have given to schools. 35%. They owe schools for first term 15%. First term. We're not talking about second term yet. So right now, heads have run the school up to now, it is midterm. We are about to go for midterm without any cent from government to run. We are running schools with the money we are getting from parents. I am a BOM chairman of a high school. And so I talk with a lot of experience here. That as a chairman of a school here in Nairobi, a high school, my school has not received money from government for this term. Educators who marked exams, I'm also an exam marker. I marked 2022 exam in Kiswahili paper 2. I want to tell you, we have not been paid. We released the results. Children and you people have been celebrating, we see you on TV, but I have not been paid for my services as I speak to you right now. And nobody's talking about it. We try to raise it through our unions. We try to say something. Money has not reached us.
What is the ministry saying?
The ministry is quiet. They say we don't have money. The same way Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president, told governors. He told them, you can whip us, you can do what you want. We don't have the money to give you. Now, these are things that are not spoken loudly. Because the people who are supposed to speak them, they also fear for their jobs. You cannot, Kahi Ndimuli, the chairman of principals, and I want to bring him here one day so that he also interview me. He's a very good man. He's the principal of Machakos Boys. At least he may say something. He told me I'm about to retire. I may have to say something, but I have to check my pension. You can't come out to criticize so openly and point out the truths of the issue, the matter. But at least me, because I'm a unionist, I can say.
So suffering in silence, what's the end result?
The end result is the parent, you, who is a parent, you, Levy, Conness, and the parents who are watching me. Do not imagine that your children are getting good quality education in a congested public school that has no money, with a principal who is stressed, who has switched off his phone and running away from debtors every day. Do not ever attempt to imagine that your daughter or your son in that public school is getting what we call quality education. Quality education is made up of 3 things. Quality teachers who are not stressed, who are well paid. Quality tools, like the stationery, the desks, and quality environment. Environment, I'm talking about even the sanitation. I'm talking about things like the food they eat in those schools, the water. That's why we had a problem in Mukumu Girls. And I want to say this, what you saw in Mukumu Girls was a precursor of what you may see very soon in many places. And I'm saying this as a warning to Kenyans and to the ministry, that without funding, so principals are sourcing for maize that may have aflatoxin. It's not well tested. Because you see, corruption also comes in when you have not paid somebody. He'll bring in maize, he will bring in the quality that you expect. Quality goes down when you are bargaining and you're not paying.
So what's the solution? You talk to government guys.
Solution is
nini?
What we want to talk about this evening, Finance Bill 2023. This government has no money. And I think that's what the president is trying to tell the Kenyans. If you want me to run your schools, you want me to run your hospitals and pay NHIF, you want me to pay hospitals, you must be taxed or I go to borrow. So he says, I don't want to borrow, I want Finance Bill 2023. That's
okay, all right. And by the way, the principals are having a meeting next week, is it?
Yes, we are going to Mombasa next week for our annual general conference. We have been doing this for the last 23 years.
No, allow me to laugh because hamna pesa na mnaenda Mombasa.
No, you see, going to Mombasa is not about money. Going to Mombasa is about, we need some time to think and reflect.
Yeah.
It's a workshop. Actually, let me tell you, Term 2 games have been postponed. I'm talking about basketball, rugby in schools.
Yeah.
We will not have them this time because
That's
there's no
very
money.
sad.
Music festivals is right now may not happen because we have been having music festival every year apart from the time of COVID.
Yeah.
This time we are not going to have it because we
it's
don't have
working
the
at
money.
tightrope.
So for the principals conference, we have told parents to support us. We have ways of, as a
Mwende tu
BOM chair,
relax, hii mambo imekuwa mingi.
yes, we just want to go and relax. Please, we don't even want media in Mombasa. Just want to talk about our issues.
I can't believe you said you don't want media. Let's talk about the finance bill. I tell you, everyone seems they don't want media now anymore.
The media comes and takes photographs of principals in the ocean, and you know we are castigated when we come back.
And misrepresents you guys. And see, honor vile wame. I tell you. So we have not got the full extent of the new proposed one.
Yes, yes.
Which was tabled in Parliament today, and tomorrow, of course, the debate is going to be hard about it.
Yes.
But there are some pointers that are
Yeah.
suggestive of what is inside.
Yes.
Like one, they say that the VAT on fuel remains unchanged.
Is 16%.
It's 16%.
What they have proposed, yes.
Housing fund goes down to 1.5%.
Yes, that one we'll talk about.
Content creators, they move from 15% to 5%.
I think they are the best gainers in the whole reduction.
Yeah.
Because it has been 50 years.
Yes, the issue of withholding tax that they were saying you pay within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Is they're now giving a 5-day
Yes.
moratorium. They're not telling us whether that includes Saturdays and Sundays.
They are not saying
Because
that.
if it's Friday,
No, but
then
the government doesn't work Saturday
you
and
calculate
Sunday.
5 days from where?
So it's just 5 days,
So-
working days.
Yes, betting, 20% was the initial proposal, now it's 12.5.
Yes.
Insurance remains the same at 16%.
Yes.
And then income tax, of course, they have those limitations. 800K and above is at 5%, that
Yes.
remains unchanged. And below that, 500 to 800,
Yes.
from 35% to 32%.
Yes.
And export levy shoots up from 10 to 17%.
Yes, that's true.
And mobile transfers is from 15% to 12%. Now, they're not telling us what, one of the other controversial issues was the issue about, if you get a payout
Yes.
from an insurance company,
Yes.
whether the government is still waiting to bite off
You pay your tax.
that 16%.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And whether it's waiting to bite off also from dividends and things like that.
Yes,
You know?
even if gains like dividends, you have to pay within hours.
Yes.
And if you are late again, you are taxed again.
Yes.
You are fined.
So far, I've not seen, okay, maybe they're telling us, but I've not read this new, I'm guessing by tomorrow we'll all have
a copy
of the same. It will be curious to find out what they have decided to do about the issue of if you have an issue with KRA.
Yes.
And you have a taxation issue.
You
and
have
the
to
KRA was
pay
saying
a down payment
of 20%.
Yes.
So if you owe $1 million, unaweka 1,200 kwanza.
Which already obviously was going to discourage
You're
everybody.
mwonge, eh?
It was going to be a big issue.
Yes.
So what's happening there? When you see they have not highlighted like that when you talk about the KRA issue, it means it may become being kept as there are some cards under the table. When you play, politics is a game. This finance bill is also has political connotations. It's all about politics.
Yeah.
It's about how do we run this government to the end.
So the politics, and this is why we said the politics of the
Yes.
finance bill.
Yes.
Let's be frank here, Amunga. That housing levy is not the elephant in the room.
It was not. In fact, many Kenyans didn't know that was nothing.
Yeah?
Yes, go on. I want to know if you know what the
real monster in the room
yes
is the VAT.
Very good. That is where the monster
that is where the monster is sleeping.
VAT on fuel.
Yes.
VAT on other issues.
Fuel, yes.
On fuel.
On
16% and it has remained 16%.
Yeah.
And you discover, and that's why I want to tell you about politics. Politics is about perception. The issue of housing could have been played out for political reasons. Let's talk about housing, because we know we can play with the figure and even reduce it. But what many Kenyans failed to get is the issue of the VAT on fuel. 16% VAT on fuel is everything has gone up. In fact, it has doubled, even tripled.
True.
So that is where that's the elephant in the room.
Because even they talk about, exemption of VAT
Yes.
on liquid petroleum gas.
Yes.
And, I was just thinking, so that goes down to zero, fine.
Yeah.
They say it's expected to go down, but that's not really the case.
It's not true the case again.
The gas
that's
guy
politics.
will say, I transported.
Yes. At the end of the day, it's not true.
And the transport is higher.
Yes.
So the balance will be back.
The issue of removing tax is a political statement. The word should be zero rating tax. There's a difference between removing the tax, saying that I've removed tax from, for example, you have a phone like the one you have, and somebody tells you, I've removed the tax from that phone. You will not pay tax. But as you put it, the moment the business has been done, there are other levies that come in. The income, the exports, there's other levies that which you may think they are levies, but they are actually taxes. Zero rating means now anything to do with anything with levy on that will not happen. So what is happening is that some of these words are being coded with some political language, innuendo, so that you don't realize exactly what's happening. It's like when we sell insurance to you. If I come to use an insurance cover to sell to you, I will not give you the small lines behind there.
The fine print.
The fine print down behind the forms that you will sign. You will read the front and the headlines. And I'll tell you, sign here, you sign. Sign here, and you sign. That is what's happening about the finance bill. This finance bill, as the government puts it, and I normally say I'm part of government, we want it to pass. We are damned if it doesn't pass.
So let's talk about now the topical issues, because here's where the politics comes in. So you have politics where, the push and pull about the finance bill,
Yes,
or
sir.
those other guys, they also said they wanted
Yes.
1.5%.
Yeah.
Now we have given them the 1.5%. What else do they want?
They did.
There's the politics of the Azimio faction saying, you know what, you are not listening.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now that you're not listening, you should prepare yourselves
Yes.
for Maandamano.
Maandamano.
There have been several other people who have actually gone
Yeah.
and actually had their Maandamanos.
Yes, already. Yeah, even some unions.
Some unions
Yeah.
and talks like that. And then there's the actual politics in terms of
Yes.
those that are using this to say that, the government is not feeling the masses.
Yes.
That the masses, they told them that, your life will be easier, that, Mama Mboga, Boda guy, things will be better. And the politics is coming that, hey, you've forgotten what you promised people.
Yes.
Yet the government is in a financial quagmire.
Yes.
Do you feel, and this is my question here,
Yeah.
the government is not representing itself well when it comes to matters communication?
Yeah. That is a point. The government actually reached a place and lost it out in the matters of communication and reaching out. I have complained personally and said it reached a place whereby the president seemed to have been left on his own to explain. He has a minister for finance, whom some of us may not even remember his name very well.
We'll see him on Thursday.
Yeah, he has a minister even for trade. He has a minister for housing. He has a minister for all these things that we're talking about, for energy. We are not seeing these people coming out and telling us about this issue about the VAT on fuel. So these people have gone down. Ministries, even during the time of the handshake government of the former government, we had ministries having communication departments in every ministry. These communication departments are able to churn out information.
I think they're still there.
But then it seems something went wrong. Maybe they were not paid or they have a problem, because we are not seeing them. We are not seeing their Twitter. Yesterday, the president, or over the weekend, the president made a change and brought somebody in his office in a set house called the person in charge of public communication, Gerald Bitok. Gerald Bitok happens to be a friend of mine. I normally go to his show. He has a show.
He's a friend of mine too.
Yes, in a show called Tackle. I've been on his show many times. So Gerald Bitok was now meant to be the person. Actually, when you look at his job description, he's the guy to do the propaganda and publicity, because it seems somebody in the office at State House or in the office of the president has failed to bring out these things properly. So they have to employ more other people to come out and show Kenyans exactly what is going on. Yesterday, Bitok and his team now came up with a hashtag called President Ruto Listens. He's listening. That's why he's reduced the tax by 1.5 for housing tax. He's listening. That's why he's listening to the content creators. He's listening. So talk to him. Talk to us. We are listening. The issue is this. The people who are criticizing the finance bill are not giving alternative suggestions. How do we get out of this hole that we are in as Kenyans? What President Ruto needed to do when he took power, and my friend Musalia Mudavadi, was to take time to explain to Kenyans properly where we are. The promises they had made, they need to reach a place and tell Kenyans, you know what, Kenyans? We made promises. And I've heard this statement come from the bishops and the Anglican Church Archbishop Sapit, that we need as a government to have come out quickly and clearly and told Kenyans the truth, that we have been living large. And because we have been living large, we are living on borrowed money. These are the situations. This is what the president, when they were campaigning, they told us even the contract for SGR, they are going to release it to Kenyans to see what it entailed. They haven't done it up to now. Those keeping secrets from Kenyans is what is bringing us to what we are today. Kenyans need to be told clearly the situation. If you are a father in your home and you lose your job and you go back home and you meet your family, you tell them, you have to look for a way to communicate. Everything is about communication. And I like what you have said. Is our government communicating well? And the answer is no. Our government had a lot of the campaign innuendos and shenanigans of chest thumping and throwing saliva and saying how we are now the ones, those ones lost, we are the people, we are the ones in charge. That debate should have stopped in November 2022. December 2022, the president would have come out clearly to tell Kenyans, things are not rosy. I cannot do what I told you I will do. Because this is, and he could have come out clearly and showed Kenyans, this is the bank statement of this country.
True.
This is our report. And because this is our report, I can't run and do things the way I told you. These friends of mine who are in office carried away everything. And he would have followed it further by doing some arrests. The person who was the finance controller, the lady called Anya Kiago, she should have been arrested when she said that I was told to withdraw money a few days to the election, to the Ministry of Transport, and I withdrew. By now, some arrests should have been done. Then Kenyans will know our president is very serious about this thing that people stole coffers money. But if you go to a church service, the way our dear deputy president does, and says we inherited a dilapidated country. They took money in wheelbarrows. They went away with our money, but you don't arrest them. You don't take anything to court. Then Kenyans take it to be, and they said it on Twitter and on social media the other day, story the Jaba. Jaba is our stories that are told when you're eating Mira or Mogoka. It's on the story.
Yeah.
For the president to come out serious about the finance bill, he should have started a long time ago, not today. It should not have been a crash program like now. It should have started early in December. And from there, by now, all Kenyans would have been on the line to know we have to tighten our belts. Things are not the way we thought. Fees money for primary may be delayed. And also the president have done goodwill by reducing his appointments. You cannot talk about that I have a problem with money in this country and you appoint 50 CASs and you don't really have a proper role for all of them. Then Kenyans look at you as a joker. Kenyans feel that you are not serious. Not just Kenyans, even the donors, even the people who lend you the money, they will not take you very seriously. So there are things you do that as a country you say, we are tightening our belts, and I'm starting like this. My ministers will not go to job with 5 cars following them or 5 Land Cruisers, fuel guzzlers, running around with them. Yesterday, over the weekend, I was in Sabatia. The Prime Minister was there to open something to do with the Sabatia Eye Clinic. And the Minister for Health came with around 15 cars. The Prime Minister, cars came first and his choppers landed. And then when you look around, the people they are coming to address are actually looking hungry, they are looking desperate, and you are telling them to pay taxes, and you come in guzzlers, then Kenyans will not take you seriously. That is where the rains started beating us.
Just called austerity measures. You know?
Yes.
And that's a good place to start because, you know, the naysayers or people who look at it from that angle point always in that direction and say, hey, you know what? Si kila mtu akaze belt. You know, let's reduce a bit. Let's say that we cannot have seminars in Mombasa and you know, and other places. No, I'm not targeting your people. Not you teachers. You said you funded yourselves.
As we will go to Mombasa.
You people, we'll talk about Mombasa next week.
Yes.
I'm talking about, you know, some of the meetings that can be had in Nairobi in places across boardrooms. People are always flying somewhere, and you know that means that you know they are carrying, they're getting per diems, they've got staff, they've got what the amount of things happening for them to even get there.
To go there is a lot of money.
Is a lot of money, you know, and in the scheme of things, it might not be much money because, you know, there are those who argue and say,
Yes.
this money
In the percentage point,
is very kidogo,
is compared to what we need
the
as a
national
country.
debt.
Yes.
But you know, the perception is everything. And,
That's it.
and he who is faithful with little
Much
will be
more
faithful with
will
much.
added.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah? You know, if we can manage 20 shillings, we can definitely
We can
manage,
manage more.
20 trillion,
And
you know.
A video came out recently of a Kenyan living in Netherlands. The Prime Minister for Netherlands was going to change his spectacles, have them checked. And he took a walk. You know, he was walking, he was alone.
Yeah.
So this lady who is a Kenyan, this is our Prime Minister for Netherlands. So she greeted him and took a video with him and greeted him and said, you are the Prime Minister and you are walking. Come and visit our country, Kenya. There's no way such a thing can happen. He said, no, I'm also just like a normal human being. And Netherlands' economy, you cannot compare with
You
ours.
cannot compare with us, yeah.
Not just Netherlands. Go to any country. You,
Yeah.
you hear of prime ministers, the president going to. The other day in our country, we saw our first lady going to the UN on riding a bicycle. But very interestingly,
That was news.
behind her were several Land Cruisers and fuel guzzlers and ambulances and armored cars, following her. So at the end of the day, there was no statement made. That perception has failed our
Well, someone
government.
told me that power must be felt, Amunga.
I'm the one of the people who told you that.
Yes.
And I actually told you, in fact, I think you are hitting at me.
The power
Must be exercised.
must be felt.
And
So
you
now,
must feel that Musalia has
now-
arrived in Mululu. There is no way that Musalia can come to Mululu and we don't hear the cry of a chopper, the cry of Land Cruisers and a platoon of policemen.
so maybe that's an African thing. But we could borrow a bit from the West in terms
Yes, the
of how we
reason is
handle
how
ourselves.
we were born, where we come from as Africans. A leader is a king. He's not a servant. In those countries I'm talking about, like Britain and wherever, the leader is a servant of the people. He has to serve the people. There's a big difference between us and them. It's about culture. Our culture is about show off as a leader, protected, have policemen, have bodyguards, have everybody, have
Flex,
people.
yeah.
Show that you are a leader.
Yeah.
We can't run away from it. The only way we can run away from it, we have to pay for it. Pay for it by paying your taxes.
So this bill, let's get back to it. Now that they have managed to, make a few changes,
Yes.
what does that tell us? Does that tell
Yes,
us
that's a
that
good
there's
question.
room for concession,
That's a good question.
some wiggle room when people are discussing tomorrow?
Yes.
Or is this the end all in all?
The discussion tomorrow in Parliament, let me start by what you have really asked, that they have made changes. What are the advantages or the pros and cons for Kenya Kwanza government and for the president? The pros are, it shows that the president is listening to the people.
Yeah.
That's why there was the hashtag, President Ruto listens.
But we had some people telling us not even a comma.
Yes, yet there were people who had just stamped and said,
you
like
know,
your Nandi senator.
we shall change nothing.
Yes, General Gay said, not even a comma will be changed. Even Osoro said something like that then before
the whip.
The chief whip. Let me say this. The truth of the matter is this. That change is good. That shows that there is room for improvement. There is room for discussion. This debate in Parliament means it's also good when we go with, at least there are some changes. We may expect some more amendments on the bill. It's a good thing. For me, from the point of the government side, it's a plus that the government is listening to the people. These debates that are going on, this conversation we're having, and you just told us very correctly that nowadays it's almost week after week, program after program, people are discussing about the finance bill and the economy of this country. If we start seeing these changes, it means our discussions are bearing fruit. In fact, Levi, I want to tell Kenyans, don't be surprised very soon when the president says, I want to do some austerity measures. We also got cut down on his government. Don't be surprised if you hear that the issue of 50 CSS may be dropped. Don't be surprised because even our donors are also talking to us. Are we listening? That is the question. And so this thing was a good answer. Yes, as government, we are listening to the people. We are listening to the donors. We are listening to media. We are reading what you are saying. But again, there is a problem to it. There's a disadvantage. If I was in the opposition, I'll take advantage of what has happened. I'll ask questions like this. For example, if you wanted to charge us 3% plus 3% from the employer and 3% from the employee, that is 6% for housing levy, and now you have reduced it to 1.5. That means your calculations were either wrong or
And not just reduced it, by the way, they even put a clause there
yes,
that they are willing to shelve it till January.
yes, that kind of clause. Those clauses are indications that somebody who was calculating this bill for us may have exaggerated some figures. There are some figures that, because actually it's true, at first when President Uhuru Kenyatta came up with this thing, it was 1.5%. At what point did it now reach 3%?
But Amunga, you know, even when you're doing a budget, when you know you're doing a budget for shopping,
Yes.
you don't do an exact budget.
Very true.
You
Give room
you
for
in- you
improvement.
inflate
or for-
kidogo
yes.
in case you
So
walk into
that
you
gives
know.
room for somebody to say,
So there's got to be some
that gives room.
wiggle room.
When
yeah.
I was a teacher in
They-
a high school, right now I'm a unionist, when I'll go to the principal with a budget, I'm taking my boys for drama, and I tell him they need costume, they need some transport bread. Then he cuts, you know, he says we don't have this. Well, instead of eating half bread, let them eat a quarter. Big soda, Madiaba, let them eat let them share one soda. Now, if
I laugh because I haven't had that word in a long time. But
now if I as a drama teacher,
uh-huh.
I say, okay, but a principal, we'll do with that. Next time I go back to him with the same budget, he'll again reduce it much further.
Yeah.
So what you normally do when
It's a Kenyan way.
Yes, a Kenyan way. So what you do,
We overestimate.
yes, but what you do now, if you want to keep your integrity to the principal, to your boss, I'm talking to people who are also working in offices like this one. If you want to keep your integrity, have a budget that is foolproof, that is, there's no way that it's going to be reduced or added. Tell him this money is needed. This is how it's bought. This is what is needed. That is why we have had a problem with our purchases. Our purchasing officers, why they are being sacked every day. One pen like this one of mine here can be going at around 100 shillings on the streets of Nairobi. But when you sell it to the Ministry of Interior here, it is going at 2,000 shillings. From 100 to 2,000 shillings. So we must also stop that culture of exaggerating budgets. Stop it. If your budget is 50, let it be 50. Even the Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. This country must reach a place, if we make a budget, let it be the budget. There's no room for wriggling. There's no room for removing anything. The president will have gained a lot of marks from people who have stand firm like me.
Yeah.
If he has stood with what he had said.
I hear you.
But the moment
seven
you
quick
come
minutes.
down, it brings a problem.
Yeah, 7 quick minutes, and I just want to touch on something. I would, you know, one other thing that is of concern in as far as, especially when it came to the housing levy,
Yes.
was the issue of what happens if the money is misappropriated.
Yeah.
Now, those who have, seen the penalty, you know,
Yes, sir.
it read something like 10,000 bob,
Yeah.
you know, and people said, okay, we're going to give you so much money, billions of shillings. You actually are going to create a fund
Yeah.
out of the consolidated fund
Yes.
for it. It's not exactly going into our budget.
Yeah.
You have not exactly told us how you're going to manage it, because they said we cannot talk about the managing when we don't have the funds.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that first you put it in the finance bill.
Yes.
If it is approved,
Yeah.
then now you create the structures for
Yes.
for
Yeah,
management.
sorry.
For management. So it's all sort of like the rules will come.
Yes.
Yeah?
After we start collecting.
Yes, after we start collecting. So the rules will come. They'll follow the story. And that, by the way, has a lot of people jittery and asking,
course.
okay, you know, in this country, we've got a history of scandals. Ranging way back all the way
From
to-
independence.
to the independence era. Scandal after scandal after scandal after
Yes.
scandal, money misappropriated, and nobody ever really getting
Arrested or caught.
arrested.
for that matter.
And even worse, money returned.
In fact, money is never returned.
You know, the money vamooses, and that's the end of the
Yes,
story.
that's true.
Right now, we were just busy talking about sugar the other day.
Yes.
And just this week, we had some of that sugar has found itself into the
In the
market.
shelves.
People are horrified, you know.
Yes, yes.
Imagine buying sugar at the price it is now and ending up
This
with sugar
contaminated.
that is contaminated.
Yes.
So those questions sit heavy.
No.
Don't you think it behooves the government to actually outline what will really happen? Because Singapore is quoted a lot,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of Singapore did the housing levy
Yeah.
and they did development, and we've had it quoted all the way
All the time.
from State House. Excellent.
Yeah.
But no one quotes what Singapore does to people who steal their
Who
money.
steal their money? They hang them.
They kill them.
They kill them. It is a death penalty in Singapore. and I like what you've said. The issue is, no, the issue that comes out is this. Not just about the housing levy. What about the fuel levy, the VAT on fuel, and other taxes that we are collecting? All this money, these are going to be a lot of money being collected from Kenyans. How are we so safe with that money being collected? Who is taking care of it? The former president told us that this country at one point was losing at that time. He told us, our president speaking on a show like this one of yours, 2 billion shillings per day to corruption. We saw the KEMSA scandal. We have seen the person being interviewed the other day, and she told us, I was not even in charge. Somebody else was in charge. So already the game starts like that. We saw the NYS scandal. As I speak to you right now, I don't think there's anybody really seriously answering in court any question about the NYS scandal. Money disappeared. Money Kenyans contribute as taxes went, and it has gone. And
So do you think then,
and the question,
and as we finish, because I see
Yes,
we only
yeah.
have a minute to go,
Yeah.
do you think that it's ripe for us to have a discussion concurrently with the bill?
Yes, the discussion of transparency, accountability, and proper management structures to manage our resources and our funds. We need to be having that debate running concurrently with the debate of collecting taxes.
Yeah. So as if we have to take a bitter pill and we have to pay VAT
Yes.
at 16%, well and
We
good.
must be sure that
And
that
we
money
have to
is
pay
safe.
housing levy and it ends up on our doorsteps, and we have to, because David D said what?
It's wasteful.
That you, what happens about taxation?
Yes.
You take a deep breath.
And you take a deep breath.
Because this one,
Leap.
you're going to measure this one. So,
This
so
one will chew.
when we are chewing this one, and
Yes.
it's so bitter,
Yes.
and it's like quinine,
Yes.
can we be told what will happen if somebody steals it?
That's the question. And just to cap it up is the question of the big problem is our middle class, people like you and I, who sit in this kind of offices and who do this kind of shows. Many of us take a backseat in this kind of issues. That is the question that should be driven by professionals like you and I. We have left most of this discussion between politicians and the people they call mama bogas, the people they call hustlers. So we are left out. And then when it comes to taxes, proper taxes of your payslip, most of this majority of these Kenyans don't have a payslip. Always remember that as we discuss this thing. And we have had our leaders tell our Kenyans, I am dealing with the poor who have payslips. I'm not dealing with you, the rest of you. Why are you complaining? Why are you making noise about it? It is therefore starts from you who went to Alliance Boys, you went to Cabernet High School, to start asking yourself, I am earning, I have a payslip. This payslip of mine that is being deducted money, how is my money being used and how is it being protected? The day we as middle class will come up and make those demands, even the people are meeting the people I went to discuss about the finance bill, I rarely had people who went there to give points of how we can protect our money as Kenyans. The day we start having that conversation is the day that our middle class will also have taken a bold step to be part of this. Otherwise, as David D told you, mutameza tu, take a breath, na mumeze. But the day it will reach where we shall talk as middle class, as people went to school, as people who are taught as Kenyans who went to missionary schools, that our money must be safeguarded. Every single coin that is used must be budgeted for and accounted for. Accountability and transparency should be the rallying call.
I hear you. We have to end it there, unfortunately. But next week, let's talk about it, because you know what? The budget will have been read.
Yeah, of course.
We'll still be on this finance bill issue again, you know.
Of course.
The finance bill debate, we will have had it in Parliament.
Yes.
We'll be seeing how
How
things
they
are
reacted,
going.
who voted what.
Who voted what? Everyone is interested in who voted what. And we didn't even get a chance to talk about that.
Yes.
But so much to talk about, and unfortunately, time is up, but we'll continue. The conversation continues in our houses, in our homes, on the streets, everywhere, and especially on this desk right here. See you next week. God bless you. Good night. This is The Opinion Box.